What's up, metal and heavy music fans? It's Flight of Icarus again with MetalTrenches.com, and today we have a review of Enslaved and their new EP Caravans to the Outer Worlds via Nuclear Blast Records. And hey, if you like to be kept up to date with the best and brightest metal bands and albums from the underground and above, then stick with me by hitting that subscribe button down below. Enslaved is of course the Norwegian band with roots in the 90s second wave black metal movement alongside the likes of Mayhem and Darkthrone, but over the years have evolved into a full-fledged progressive project fusing those more harsh beginnings with the classic sounds of the 70s and 80s. After 2020's Utgard, I half expected them to continue down a similar road as Opeth into a more overtly progressive rock direction, but it seems that Enslaved still have some tricks up their sleeves yet. Now, what I was not expecting was this title track, which after the deceptively atmospheric intro takes us back to the ferocious black metal tremolos of Axioma and perhaps even more earlier outings straight away. There's still more of a similar direction from Utgard in terms of the clean singing sections, but now merged with that heavier side of the sound that I've always loved. I also appreciate how the subtle Hammond organ, more ethereal sounding chorus, and chill acoustic interlude counterbalance the harsh, fiery verses in a way that makes everything pop just that much more. Again, after Utgard, I anticipated more of the whole 70s kind of Pink Floyd vibe, so this felt like a nice kind of, hey, we can and will still get heavy when the time is right. Now that said, there is still plenty of that proggy weirdness to be found as well. Intermezzo 1, Lonely Gullig, as the name implies, is an instrumental interlude that flows seamlessly from the previous track and is just packed with spacey synths and experimental electronic soundscaping, alongside very simple methodical guitar grooves. This is actually one of two intermezzos, the second called The Navigator. This one opens with classical piano and pounding toms before transitioning into another patented chugging Enslaved riff that would have been right at home on some of their mid-career albums. It would have been nice to see this one expanded into a full track with vocals, but it still makes for a solid instrumental that got me moving. But then we also get the somewhat ballsy move of calling track 3 Rune 2, the Epitaph. Much like Between the Buried and Me's Colors 2, this already set the bar incredibly high given the comparisons to prior material. As always, you should be the final judge as to whether or not it meets up to expectations, but for me personally, I felt a little let down. Honestly, The Navigator had more of those nostalgia points overall than this one. It's got great atmosphere, using more proggy Hammond organ and Moog with very Middle Eastern sounding melodies and further focus on acoustic guitar. This one also features all folky clean singing, which in the second half builds to some pretty impressive layering to only further broaden the scope of its admittedly hypnotic and captivating effect. I just expected a little bit more given the title and also the overall brevity of this release. And speaking of brevity, it all seems to come to an end very abruptly. It almost feels like the first half of a larger work that would benefit from a part 2 to provide more of a conclusion. As far as EPs go, I think Insomnium did a better job last month of crafting something that still felt like a complete and cohesive work in a similar runtime. But then again, as I always say, I'd rather be left wanting more than wishing something would come to an end sooner. If nothing else, it seems like a strong indicator of good things to come moving forwards from a band that has yet to drop material that I truly disliked. Turning to my scales, I give Caravans to the Outer Worlds an 8 for enjoyability. The title track in particular reaches the heights of some of my favorite tracks in their already impressive discography, but as a whole it again left something to be desired. I give it a 9 for musicianship. As always, the songwriting and performances here are top notch, and I give it an 8 for innovation. Once more, Enslaved continue to prove themselves as a band that can never sit still in any particular sound while still staying true to their roots. So an 8.3 overall and a B for Enslaved and Caravans to the Outer Worlds. Y'all let me know what is your favorite Enslaved track, and be sure to check out my new and improved Enslaved tier list for my thoughts on all of their albums, and support me on Patreon for early access. But that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.